Well, welcome back to the Heiden Ratner Level Up Leadership Podcast. I'm super fired up for today's episode. It's episode 31, and my guy is in the building. He's at the studio. He's at the table.
I'm at the table.
Ruslan.
Thanks for doing my drop, man.
I wish I had a button for it, but
I can send it to you.
I tried.
Put it in post.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me. This is cool, man. I'm always pumped when pastors are doing podcasts.
Yeah.
Because I feel like if there's anyone we want having a podcast and having a voice, it's pastors who are actually doing the work on the front lines.
That's kind.
I'm super pumped to be here. Cool office.
Yeah.
Cool vibe. You see you're a sneakerhead. A bit of a sneakerhead. So yeah, thank you for having me.
Man, that's an honor, bro. Well, it's grateful to have you here in Vegas.
Yes, sir.
Sharing with us, helping us get a little bit better. We met at the Think Conference a couple years ago or so, and just have been following your channel. Just to see how God's using you in the YouTube podcast space. But I also remember listening to you as an artist and just, a lot of bars.
Throwback.
Lyricist.
Yeah.
Grateful for that. And I know you're kind of doing a little bit of everything, but one of the things you're doing is leading, right? And so there's aspects of leadership that have to do with all the stuff going on. And so on the Level Up Leadership Podcast, one question that we like to just think through is, how are you leveling up in this season when it comes to leadership?
I just took my whole team through Atomic Habits, the audio version. And it's great because I think there's some very practical stuff. Some of it obviously is disconnected from the gospel, but I think there's a lot of overlap and congruence. And so the thing that we've really worked on, fine-tuned, are always tweaking is our systems in terms of how we have our cameras set up, how we do our podcast, how we do our intros, how we do our thumbnails, that it's systematized and there's a template that we can go to eliminate as much friction and overthinking. Because when you're dealing with creative people, they could sit there and tinker on, one pixel of a photo, and you're like, nah, dog.
We gotta move.
We need 7 more in the next 2 hours. Like, we got to move on to the next thumbnail. So I think like creating systems for people to function in that almost is a safety net to not fail. And so like we brought on my nephew a year ago. He's been with us for a year, and he had to learn all the ins and outs of everything we do, from the thumbnails to the titles to the video editing to the scheduling to the uploading, like everything.
All that's intentional.
Yeah, that's intentional. And we were able to get him up to speed with no technical abilities prior. He didn't take a video editing class. He didn't get a Photoshop certificate in high school. Like, this was stuff I was doing. We go to the same high school, oddly enough, right? So I was doing this stuff in high school, and I was able, we were able to get him up to speed where we're just a year in, and he can pretty much do everything.
Wow.
And that to me is a testament to systematizing how we do things and equipping the team to be able to do everything. And again, going back to James Clear and Atomic Habits, you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. So
on target.
Yeah, you could have an ambitious goal. We have we have really ambitious goals, but we focus on our inputs. Yeah. And through the systems, the outputs come.
Man, it's so good.
But we can't always control the outputs, but we can just focus on the inputs. And sometimes, like with YouTube, it's hard because what we do is based, unfortunately, right now, we've backed off further from AdSense. AdSense is making money off of the YouTube views. People watch them.
Right.
You get an ad. So AdSense is hard because the algorithms change, the CPMs change. December, November are killer months for us, and then January comes around and people aren't advertising as much, right?
Interesting.
So what we're able to do is we know these things and these shifts are coming. So instead of like, our videos aren't performing well, people aren't watching, are we getting shadow banned? What we're able to do is we're able to increase the inputs.
Wow.
When we know the outputs naturally dip, when those ebbs and flows comes. And that's all systems. Like, it's literally everything is about systems. And so from one aspect, we're very creative in what we do, but from another aspect, it's very systematized.
No doubt, man. I love that right there. What's wild is the last 3 episodes that I've done, I've referenced Atomic Habits and talked about the 1% better each day.
1% better each day, yeah.
And just the incremental growth over time. So if you've been leaning in on this podcast, you're starting to see a theme. I'm hoping James Clear watches this.
Yeah.
All right, come on.
Yeah.
And, I think that there's so much brilliance in just small habit stacking that really lead to significant growth.
Yeah.
And I think you're a testimony of that when it comes to what you're saying you're applying there.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think the systems then allow you to do more with less. So we only have a 4-day work week. We come in Monday through Thursday, 9:30 to 5:30. We hit it really hard. People see what we do. And the question I'm asked often, like I just spoke at Liberty's convocation yesterday, you know, and I had so many students ask me, like, how are you able to do so much? How are you able to? And it's like, because we have systems in place. We only work 4 days a week, 30 to 32 hours.
It's good, man.
And then that gives my guys time to have Friday, Saturday, Sunday with their wife. I proposed a 3-day work week. I was like, I think we could do it in 3 days. And they're like, you're crazy. What are you talking about? I'm like,
hey.
I'm like the only boss probably in the world that's like, you guys want to go to 3 days a week, you know?
Man,
because I know that if they have families and they have things in their personal lives that they're excited about, then when they come back in, they're that much more refreshed and focused.
No doubt.
Yeah.
Man, that's a good word. Systematized. It really helps us do more with less.
Yeah.
Come on. I think that I heard that quote recently. I think it was a Craig Groeschel quote. He just said, the best focus on less. And I was like, man, I'm focused on a lot right now. I gotta level up. Maybe that's why we're here, right? That's good, man.
Yeah, the best focus on less. And it's interesting because now my guys don't let me do anything besides be on camera.
It's good.
So they won't let me tinker with an edit. They won't let me do a thumbnail. They keep me out of everything. Yeah. And and sometimes like I know like, I mean, we got to get a lot. Like Zach, my number 2, it just started his sabbatical, you know, and I was gone Thursday because I went to Liberty. And so we had a shorter week, and I can step up and edit if I need to. I can step up and do thumbnails if I need to. I can step up and help out. But even in that, we were able to not just get our stuff scheduled through Thursday and Friday. They got the video scheduled through Monday on our second channel.
Man, it's good.
And I didn't have to be in the weeds at all. I could just focus on, let me focus on my talk at Liberty. Let me focus on coming back refreshed from the weekend with fresh content ideas. We have guests coming in. I could focus on that. I could focus on hosting those guests, entertaining those guests. And that's been interesting because whenever I offer now, like, hey, like I could help out with thumbnails. Like if it's tight, and they're like, no, like you stay out of this stuff. You know?
I think that, like I said, there is a lot of leadership ingredients in everything you're saying because, I once heard it put that, you know, if you're claiming to be a leader, but you look back and nobody's there, you're just taking a walk.
That's good.
I was like, man, that's challenging.
Yeah.
Right. And what you're saying is, hey, look, I'm equipping, I'm developing my team in such a way where it doesn't all rise and fall on me. That's some gold level leadership that I think all of us can lean into, regardless of what your domain is or your position is or what you're leaning into right now. Are you developing people to help you on the mission of what God's called you to do, man? That's fire.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, like we can't see people as just units of productions, as cogs in a wheel to create what it is that we're trying to do. Like as kingdom people, we can't. Like people aren't just commodities that we get resource out of, or we buy back our time because we hire people. Like these are people with their own dreams and aspirations and families and things they want to do. And so I want to do right by my people, and that looks like flexibility. That looks like trying to pay them above market rate. That looks like really giving them the things that hopefully they're finding value in the job. So there's dignity and there's excitement and they feel compensated and taken care of and they're incentivized. But at the same time, the bar is high for the output.
No doubt. Yeah, which I think that calls everybody around you to rise and level up as well.
Yeah.
I love the phrase "bless God." Talk about where that comes from.
It comes from the scriptures. So there's the phrase "bless God" just means praise God.
Yeah.
My favorite reference of it is in Luke 2. There's an encounter that Simeon is having with the baby Jesus.
Sure.
And it says,
this is like an underrated Christmas passage. I always feel
fire
like.
Christmas
so
story.
Good, man.
Which, I mean, not to get too deep, but like if you think about the Christmas story, like the incarnation of Jesus is what changes the world. And there's levels to that with regards to God becoming man. The God is spirit. He's an immaterial force that's outside of time, space, but he's all-knowing, all-powerful, and he comes into the flesh. He comes into material things, right? And so as he's doing that, Simeon encounters this baby Jesus, and it says he blessed God.
Wow.
And I was like, oh man, like I've always loved that phrase. And I think it's a flip on God bless, right? Like God bless you, you know, and it's like, or always wanting blessings, but like, what if the inversion of that was like, can we live our lives that bring a blessing to God, a sweet aroma of worship and celebration that he is worthy. Yeah. And so the least we can do is live in accordance with his will.
I love that right there. Yeah. We don't want just God to bless it. We want to bless him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kind of draws me to the delight yourself in the Lord, and he'll give you the desires of your heart, which I think, you know, in interpretation could be both ways. Like he might make those desires in your heart come to life, but I think more than that is he's going to give you the desires in your heart.
It might change your desires.
Totally.
Yeah, give you different desires. Man. So the things I used to want, I don't want anymore. The things I used to think were lame, now I want.
Yeah.
You know?
So good. And that, you know, that comes from this idea of delighting, abiding. You know, it's kind of been our theme for this year is abiding, less trying harder, more remaining longer. You know, like the branch, the branch's greatest potential is connection to the vine. Doesn't have much purpose if it's not connected. And I think just for me, that's been like I don't know if the word is revelation, but more just a good reminder of like, if you saw a branch like on the ground, like spazzing out, trying to produce fruit, you'd be like, man, something's off with that thing. But through connection and just remaining, the fruit will come.
Amen.
And so I'm just, you know, leaning into that and even just thinking about that in the context of, man, I just want to bless God.
Amen.
That's fire.
Yeah.
Hey, share us a little bit about your journey, your story. And you can make it however long or if you want to jump to different moments. I just think it would be dope to just hear about some of your testimony and how you got to be the man of God that you are today.
Yeah. I'm originally from a country called Azerbaijan, Baku. I'm ethnically Armenian. My mother was adopted by an Armenian family. She's Russian, but her family was Armenian. My dad's Armenian. And Azerbaijan is just to the east of Armenia. And it's right off the Caspian Sea. It used to be a part of the former Soviet Union. So when I grew up, I remember growing up with food rations and water rations. We'd get a tub of water that we'd have to share. Some of my most earliest memories is like stuff like that. And we had to come to the United States because we were refugees. We were displaced from our land. And the sad part about that is like it's still happening right before October 7th with Israel and that whole attack. 2 weeks prior to that, 100,000 Armenian Christians were displaced from Azerbaijan. Yeah, this was like a different kind of, you call it like an autonomous zone, but it was supposed to be like its own kind of country that was like ethnically Armenian, but technically in Azerbaijan.
Yeah.
And so Azerbaijan went in and just got all those people out. And so there's 100,000 people that were just displaced a year and a half ago.
Man.
So the conflict is still ongoing. So we came out here because of the pogroms of Baku, which was there's information, disinformation, misinformation. Who knows that Arzis were getting displaced from Armenia and were getting kicked out of Armenia and getting harmed. And so then the Arzis in Azerbaijan said, well, we're going to get the Armenians out of here. And it was this big deal. And the Soviet Union didn't do a good job of handling that, and it turned violent. And so we come to the United States. I am 6 years old. My mother and my father split up 6 months later. My dad remarries as another family. My mom spirals into alcoholism and toxic men, and just a mess of a childhood up until really I got to high school. But prior to getting into high school, like I got arrested at age 11. I'd been through a lot, you know, between sexual assault to getting arrested to trying drugs and just.
Did you guys relocate to San Diego?
So we were in San Diego.
Okay, got you.
And then at around going into 8th grade, so I like flunked my 7th grade year, basically. I had like a 1.0.
Wow.
Going into 8th grade, she kind of saw that I was on a terrible path, and she got a job in northern San Diego, North County, San Diego, which is Oceanside.
Sure.
She was working at Ocean's 11 Casino, so we relocated to Vista, which is the town right over. And that kind of gave me a clean slate. I wasn't caught up in the same gang stuff. I was like, okay, I'm just going to be a basketball player. Like
there we go.
That's the thing, right? And then I discovered I was Armenian, and that, you know, Armenians, if you factor in the Kardashians, we've taken way more careers from the NBA than we've added.
That is wild. Hold on a second. That's crazy.
And
keep going.
There hasn't been an Armenian that's ever made it to the NBA. I think now there's a guy in the G League right now. And so my mom's boyfriend had to sit me down and have a conversation about genetics with me. You know, hey, like it's not in the cards for you, bud. You know, so I was managing this like, you can do anything you put your mind to type self-actualization, like very American, you know, with like getting cut from my sophomore basketball team. And people were like, it's okay, Michael Jordan was cut. And it's like, yeah, Michael Jordan was cut from his varsity team. And then he came out and balled out the next year, you know? That wasn't it for me. So I pivoted from wanting to be a professional athlete to wanting to be a rapper. And I kind of obsessed over that. Subsequently came to faith a couple years after that. I met a girl, started going to church because the only way to see her over the summer was to go with her family to church on Sundays. So I started going to church, got radically saved, converted, still wrestling with certain aspects. Me and that girlfriend broke up, and I continued making music. A couple years later, met my wife. A couple years after that, I'd been married almost. So we met a year after I was out of high school, a month after she was out of high school.
Wow.
Got engaged 4 years after that. And then now we've been together, be 17 years in July.
Man.
Married 17 years, together 21 years. And I've been doing music and or YouTube from 2015. So 2015 is when I quit my job.
Okay.
You mentioned the Dream Junkies earlier.
Yeah.
So we kind of had this Dream Junkies run, and then I kind of pivoted and kept doing solo stuff. And then 2020 during the pandemic, I was already doing YouTube stuff, dabbling.
Yeah.
And I had met Sean Cannell at that point.
Sure.
He gave me a lot of wisdom, a lot of value. And other people were just doing YouTube. And I was like, man, there might be something here. So I was dabbling, and then I was reviewing other Christian artists' music. And then they started asking me my opinion on cultural topics and theology topics.
Sure.
And because I'd spent 20 years in the church, spent 20 years leading Bible studies, small groups, teaching everyone from my, holding babies in a church to young adults and even Sunday morning, I just started speaking about stuff that I knew from my own paradigm, my own experience. Yeah, and I could.
Able to.
And those were the videos that popped off for me. So I spent 5 years kind of wandering in the desert on YouTube, and then right after that is when the those things clicked. Like 2019, I got a little taste of it with podcasting, and then 2020, the end of 2020 is when it really popped off for me. And then went full time, like my income replaced my music income, my YouTube income replaced my music income like the beginning of 2021.
Man, that's dope.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's really been like a solid 10-year, 2015 to now, like, hey, you got it out the mud, man.
Yeah. I mean, I think
that's dope.
I didn't have any other choices because of 2020, everything locked down. I couldn't do music
anymore. Everybody was on YouTube.
And so I was like, well, might as well just go all in on this. And the real unlock for me was in 2019, I probably uploaded a clip of some form, usually conversations like this, like podcast clips. In 2019, I did it every day. 2020, about halfway through, I said, I'm going to try multiple clips a day and see if that unlocks anything or makes anything click in the algorithm. And that was the unlock. Because it was more shots at bat, and it was more touches in the algorithm.
Yeah.
And then it was a feedback loop.
Interesting.
These work, those don't work.
Hey, getting some great wisdom from you here, and I think you got something to share.
Yeah.
Why not double down on it and see those talents, multiply.
Yeah. And so now we do one main channel clip about 5 days a week on my main Ruslan KD channel, but my second Bless God Studios channel, which just cracked 300,000 subscribers, that's our smaller channel.
Wow.
We do 3 to 4 clips a day on there.
Okay.
And it's that volume.
Yeah.
More shots at bat and kind of paying attention to what videos pop, what videos don't pop that we didn't necessarily find the most interesting, what videos didn't pop, but we do find interesting, and we want to keep doubling down and figuring out how to package them better so that people will find them interesting. And it's really, Mike Winger had this thought of, like, as a Christian, it shouldn't be hard for us to consider what do people care about. Like, consider others, right? Considering others. That's what a good YouTuber does that. And again, you can be controlled by the algorithm, and that could be a negative thing. But if you're really trying to find that balance of, I have value and insight and wisdom I want to share, but I need to speak to people's concerns and worries, and finding that bridge, like, that's ultimately how you hack it in a way. And I hate that terminology, but that is how you figure it out.
No, that's good. Yeah. I mean, I'm taking some notes right now and just thinking through in my own world how to level up. I don't want to just stay the same. I definitely don't want to go backwards. This is, I think, great to learn insight from those like yourself who are making a difference in the space. Hey, 3 quick, rapid round questions.
Let's do it.
Before we close this time. It's already been so fruitful. One, man, favorite Jordan of all time?
14s.
14s.
Easy. I'm about to, Black toes. I could wear black toes every day.
Love those. Classic.
But I feel like I might start looking like a cartoon character because I'm in the same stuff all the time. So I might go back and get the OG bread 14s.
No doubt.
I got to see what they're going for on GOAT. I might have sold something on GOAT. Might have a credit.
Yeah.
Easy answer. Black.
So I was in the last shots.
Yeah, I was in 8th grade when those came out, and I remember like not being able to get them, and like now as an adult I can get them, and I got this weird like sentimental value. And that's where my life really changed. Like I moved to North County, new school. My GPA went from being like a 1.0 in 7th grade to like a 3.8 in 8th grade.
Killer.
And so like that moment, there's something about that moment in time for me, that last year he had with the Bulls. And those were the kicks that he was wearing.
Yeah, I think you should do what you got to do to add those to your collection.
I never really put all that together, why I like those so much, until you just asked me that. And they kind of clicked like that. That was a very pivotal moment for me.
Yeah, I recently did that with some Iversons.
Which ones?
So I'm actually blanking on the actual one. They just dropped on Foot Locker.
Okay.
I'm not even sure the name.
Ones with the zipper, or is it the ones with the toe?
Nope. They're not the ones with the zipper or the toes. Both those are part of my middle school journey.
Yeah.
These are ones that like didn't get a ton of love, but they just retroed them, and that's why I'm blanking on the name. But I had them in high school. I had an incredible summer. In these specific Iversons, you're gonna have to find them.
I gotta find them.
I've only seen them on Foot Locker, and I said I got to get them. Period.
Okay.
They mean a lot to me.
I just saw they just retroed the pump shoes, but they didn't make the same noise. I almost got them, but they didn't make that same. That's what I really wanted was the.
No doubt.
So I was like, man, that's the right. Okay, no, I sorry, we got to stop and figure out what the heck were they? What Iversons are you talking about?
Yeah.
I've never owned a pair of Iverson for some reason.
Man.
I loved him, but because the Reeboks always ran big.
Of course, yeah. I definitely got some questions and answers still in the collection, but are you on there? Are you on there right now? Okay. These aren't loading up right now. Come on now, where these at?
Wi-Fi here is not good. Well, my data here is not
I love
good.
how we're on the live podcast right now. I'm going to find these for you, man. I might even get you a pair and send them to Dago. I'm going to find them right now on footlocker.com. Shout out to Foot Locker. I hope they see this.
I just always remember those Iversons running super big.
Here they go. Right here. These are the Reebok Answer 3s.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, man, that is interesting. Yeah. I don't even remember when these came out.
Yeah. Yep. Those came out. He was killing in those.
Wow. Okay.
And they got the little logo on the side.
Yeah.
And I was like, man.
That's fire.
So
anyway, we went down a rabbit hole.
14s, right? I love that right there. Next one, really quick. As you're in the space, you're reviewing a lot of content. Mm-hmm. You're peeking in at what's going on in Christianity in America in a lot of different ways. Mm-hmm. What are you seeing in the church right now? What are you seeing that is either concerning or what are you seeing you'd like to see more of when it comes to just the church in America? Is there a drift? Is there something that's trending, that's hot right now?
Yeah, I think that there is a revival happening, but the revival will not be televised.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be like the other revivals, because you think of revival and you think of like weeks of nonstop spontaneous worship where people just gather at the altar. And I don't have no problem with people gathering at the altar or worshiping or any of that. I'm not mad at that.
Yeah.
But I think revival and awakening doesn't have to look like extended church services.
Sure.
And I don't think it's going to happen in big groups. I think it's going to happen in small circles.
Sure.
And I think there's a bottom up and top down shift that's happened with
Love that.
the media, the world that I'm in. It's already happened. Like the people that are Jesus curious or full out Jesus professing are some of the most influential people in culture right now.
Wow.
Right? Like it sounds like Rogan is right on the cusp. Jordan Peterson, right on the cusp if he's not there, right? These are very influential people.
Totally.
And they're talking about it and they're asking the right questions.
Definitely in the athletic space too.
Yeah. So there's a top-down shift happening, and I think there's a bottom-up shift happening. I would be curious to look at church attendance pre-2020, post-2020. I get the sense that it's up. It's up at every church I know of.
Yeah.
I can't speak to other streams of Christianity. So I would say I think there's a revival or awakening or just Bible, not revival, just Bible.
But it might look different than what we typically think of when it comes to revival. That's good, man.
Yeah, and so I'm hopeful for that. And so my heart is like, hey, someone's going to have to mentor and disciple and do life with all these people.
Right.
Because these people are going to start, they're going to start showing up to our churches.
No doubt.
And the biggest influx of people we see at our church, Rhythm Church in Oceanside, California, is,
love your pastor, by the way.
Thank you, is people in their 30s and 40s with families, young families, who have never been churched. Like the nuns.
Yes.
Are now coming back to church.
Yeah.
Or they've never had church.
Yep. Because they're openness.
Yeah. And so now they're coming to church. And so we're dealing with people that like, they don't know the Christmas story. They don't know the resurrection story. They don't know anything. They're just like, we just want to go to church. Yeah. And so they're blank slate.
We want authenticity. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that's always a good apologetic. Is just being the real you.
Yes.
Even the struggler you.
Yep.
But I think that's such a good word. I love how that's something you're sensing in your spaces, and something we should be ready for.
Amen.
Thinking about.
Amen.
Final question. Maybe just take a moment. We got a camera right here. We just have a personal touch on this podcast as we close it out, that somebody's on the other side of this. They're thinking about how they can level up in their leadership in this season. What would you tell them if they're focused in? It's you and Ruslan right now on the cam.
I would tell you to focus on mastering the fundamentals. I think anyone that is extremely proficient at anything is usually a master of the fundamentals. And I think sometimes, especially as leaders, especially as even Christians, we think that we advance past the fundamentals, and we don't. My son is learning basketball right now. He's 10, and the basics of just a layup coming off the opposite leg with the opposite hand, the basics of a drop step.
It's not easy.
The basics of, hey, you can't just dribble with your right hand. You got to learn to dribble with your left hand because they're going to trap you and they're going to get the ball from you. So I think there's something to that with regards to that is a forever thing. You always got to be refining the fundamentals.
Right.
And I think in that as a leader, it's about people. Like it's about people, and it's about equipping people and helping people to walk out their full potential. And that's basic. That's not advanced.
For sure.
That's like baseline human interaction 101 and learning how to care for people. And I think if we learn how to do that in a way that really considers other people, really considers what makes them tick, and that becomes the thing that drives us, not our castle, but God's kingdom. How do we build God's kingdom? How do we build God's people? How do we pour into people and make them walk in their fullness? And I think that's baseline, honestly. I think that's base level. And so my advice to people would be, keep focusing on the people, keep focusing on loving people, keep focusing on creating systems and giving people opportunities to thrive, and praise people publicly when they get it right, and correct them privately when they get it wrong.
That's good, man. Yeah, we've been on this John 15 study for these past 21 days of prayer and fasting, just doing like an exposition of each verse of the chapter. And what spoke to me the other day was, after all of the vine and the branch dialogue and the fruit, more fruit, much fruit, so much good content in there, toward the end of some of this sermon, Jesus says, I've said all of this to you so that you'll love one another. As I said,
that's good.
Man, all of that, abiding, producing fruit, remaining in his joy, fullness of joy, all of that, so that you'll actually do this thing.
He echoes that later, just a couple chapters, when he's like, I've go on and love each other the way I've loved you. A new command I give you, right? Like that's some heat right there. And so he keeps driving that back to those ideas. It's good.
It's like the slogan of Christ. And also, man. So, man, this is great. Grateful for the session. Honored by the time.
Thank you.
I feel like I got better. Amen. I got some notes. I got some thoughts. I want to apply it. I want to bless God with my life.
Let's go.
Not focused on my castle, but his kingdom.
Amen.
Man, just great. So thank you again. And I just want to say, if you're watching this or if you're listening to this, whatever you're doing to stream this, consider hitting the subscribe button, drop a comment. Check out Ruslan's YouTube channels and podcasts as well, on his Ruslan KD page or his Bless God Studios page. So much heat coming from those spaces. And stay tuned. We got a lot more good content coming. Grateful for you joining us. Peace.
Peace.